Hi everyone, it's Mike here and welcome back. So today I'm going to be playing with, well, I want to say a new product, but actually it's not a new product. These have been out for quite some time. It's just I've never had any. So we're talking about the IndigoBlu Vivid ink sprays, particularly not the actual sprays themselves, but the actual eco refill. So these are the refill packages that you get when you've run out of your original one for refilling, basically. But they can be used just from the tube as already pre-made up and already pre-done inks, so water-based inks. So without any further waffle from me, let me turn over to my overhead camera. We're going to be creating an art journal page today with some texture so that the colour is going to work really, really well with those inks. So yeah, let's just get on with it, shall we? Okay, so I can't find my clicker that I use to start and stop my video. It's disappeared, and it's not small either. Anyway, I've looked everywhere. So I'm working in my 8x8 art journal today, and I'm going to be doing a little bit of stenciling or putting some texture paste through this stencil. So this is the Tim Holtz Flourish stencil. So what I want to do is I want to do it across, well, sort of across the middle, but just towards the lower bottom part of the page. And I've got some texture paste. This is IndigoBlu True Grit. So I'm going to get a fair whack. Mr. Nipper's asleep next to me. He's just turned over. Bentley and Ian are both out today. They've gone through to one of the neighbouring cities. Ian's taken Bentley with him just for company. But he's left me Nipper because Nipper's no problem at all. He's very quiet. Right, so what I'm going to do is I'm just going to scrape the texture paste through. So I do not want a definitive line where the texture paste ends on the page. So what I want to do is I'm just going to drag it and try and avoid and stay away from right at the edge, just so that I know I'm going to get an uneven finish, if you like. And I've just kind of done that look where I'm probably going to end up getting a line, but I can always scrape that back in a little while. And I'm going to go just keep on adding a fair bit on top. Because what I can do is I can come back and just scrape a bit off in a little while. A bit there. Just work backwards, dump some down, and then just scrape that across. So in some areas it'll be thicker and deeper than others. So if I lift this up now, holding on to these two corners, just slowly pull it up through, you can see the depth that you're going to get with that stenciling already. So with the thing with stencil, should I start that again? The thing with structure paste or any texture paste is that if you don't clean it off your stencil almost straight away, then it's an absolute devil to get off later on. You're just going to ruin your stencil if you don't get it cleaned off. So I'll just give that a quick scrape up because, you know, waste not, want not. Put the lid back on and I'll disappear off and I'll go and do a little bit of clean up here, clean the stencil, and then I'll be right back again. Okay, so I've had a bit of clean and tidy up. So just before we go on to this bit, let me just show you this paint mat. So this is a kind of non-stick, paint mat that I got from IndigoBlu. You can get these in packs of, I don't know whether it's 5 or 10. They're very, very inexpensive, and they're great for mixing paint on, texture paste and that kind of stuff. And then you can just wipe them clean. But there are other ones on the market. You can buy like the brown ones from Ranger and other places, but you can also get black ones that are supposed to sit on the bottom of your oven. and they're the ones that kind of keep the bottom of your oven clean. You can use those as well because they're heat resistant. These are not heat resistant, and the brown ones from Ranger, the one that I normally have on my desk here, is heat resistant, but these aren't. But if you want something to work on, something to keep your desk clean, then why don't you just get some cling film or saran wrap or cling wrap or whatever it is, and work on top of that, and when you're done you can just scrunch it up and throw it away. Or if you've got a laminator, you can just put a sheet of ordinary printer paper through with a laminating pouch and use that to work on, and then all you have to do is just wipe it down and put it away again to use at a later date. You don't have to go out and buy this really expensive equipment to kind of do the same job. So yeah, so just in case you're asking, this is a paint mat from IndigoBlu, but like I said, you don't necessarily have to go out and buy something. I'm only using this because it was handy. And I can't be bothered to take my green mat up because I've got one of those brown Tim Holtz ones underneath here. But like I said, I just can't be bothered. Okay, so before this dries, now I did say I want to get rid of those kind of straightish lines at the bottom there. I want to break it up. You can see this is already starting to dry on the page. I've not got the heat gun on this at all yet, so I'm just going to go in and just kind of like scrape out and distress those areas that I don't particularly want. I know it still looks like it's in a straight line, but it's not kind of so pronounced if you go in and remove some of the texture. And all I'm using is just a baby wipe, pretty much. That's it, just scrape it away, just fade it away. Just little bits. That's it. Just go around the edges. Blend and fade. It's obviously easier to do this before it dries. And it's a particularly warm day today. So this is, with the ambient temperature, it is kind of drying quickly. There we go, that'll do. There's quite a lot there as well. So I'll just give that a clean off my little mini spatula. And of course, if you get any left on a metal spatula and you want to get rid of it, just use an emery board and just file it off. And this one's covered in glue. Yuck. Right, so I'll need to just give this a little helping hand. So I shall blast this with my heat gun and then I'll be back. Alright, so while that was drying, I also had a chance to go downstairs and make myself a nice cup of coffee. Right, so what I typically do is with my heat gun, I always heat on the top, but I also go underneath as well and heat from the bottom of the page as well, just to make sure that any moisture that leaks through that way isn't trapped. So that's just what I does anyway. Right, so on to these fabulous colours. Right, so let me just grab some kitchen roll because this might get a little bit messy, because I am going to be doing, or hopefully will be doing, some dribbles and some drips and some runs. So I just want to put a little bit of paper. I'm hoping, there we go, so we've got some room to play with. I've zoomed out a bit so you can actually see right to the edges of my craft mat. So the IndigoBlu Vivids, so these are there are 10 colours in the matte range. There's also, I believe, another 5 that have got mica in them. So as you can see, while they're in their tubes, they're all very dark, apart from the odd one or two, and that's kind of like yellowish there. So they're really difficult to see what colour you're actually getting in each of those tubes. So let me just turn them upside down a bit. Really difficult. So I think with these it's important to do a swatch so you know what you're getting. Now I've already done one. So, and this is the swatch sheet that I've done. So as you can see, they look completely different. That one just looks black. Oh, it is black. That's the Sheriff of Nottingham. Duh. Alan Dale. So that's the orange one there. Even that one looks kind of dark in the tube because they're so highly pigmented and concentrated. You literally only need a very, very small drop. Now, if you can see in the Maid Marian one here, let me just see if I can zoom in a little bit and just give you an example. There we go. So can you see that little dot in the middle, the darker dot in the middle? That was the size of the drop of the colour that I put down for that block. And in that Much Miller one, you can see there's a little darker dot there. And on the little John one there, there's a little darker dot there. And that is all I put down for that entire block. And there was loads left over, absolutely loads. Even on the Robin Hood one, you can just see there's a darker spot there. And that's all it took to do all of that. So this is a swatch sheet that I did. The image itself is, I think it's an IndigoBlu stamp. But they asked me a couple of years ago to do them a swatch sheet using that graphic as a place to put the swatches. So and I just kept a couple of copies because sometimes with paints, a lot of paints, it's easy to see what you get in. Pencils, sometimes you might not get the same as what it looks like. Copics particular, or alcohol pens in particular, the colour on the actual nib is not, or on the pen top is not necessarily the colour that's actually in the pen, so sometimes you do need to swatch. So I created this one just for me. And there's 12 on there, there's only 10 colours, so, you know, at least I know now what colour to go for when I want to pick one out. So if I can't remember what Much Miller is, all I have to do is just look on that and say, oh, okay, that's kind of like a winey clarity colour or a pinky colour. Friar Tuck is more of a clarity colour, whereas Will Scarlet is more of an orangey tomatoey red. So at least I've got a reference for the colours. So without further ado-dos, let's decide on a colour palette today. Well, I think we'll go warm colour palettes. Or shall we go greens and browns and blues? Let's go greens and browns and blues. So let's bring in, to start off with then, Robin Hood himself. So let's see if I can find him now. Because it'll be the last one that I... Robin Hood, it's gone to the bottom and I'll be able to show you exactly. There's no real need to shake up, but I'm going to anyway. And also, I haven't gessoed the page because I don't want the pigment to sit on the page. I actually want it to manoeuvre. So I'm going to put a drop there, one drop there. Let's put one drop just there. And then you'll see what I mean. So I did have a small water bottle somewhere. Oh, and somebody's moved it again. One of those days today. I keep moving things. It's probably what happened to my clicker. Right, so just gently see what I should technically have done is actually wet the page first. Okay, can you see the colour that we're getting just with those 3 dots? Of course, like most watercolours, they will dry. That's it. They will dry lighter. But look at that, beautiful. And of course, you can always just grab a little bit of kitchen towel and just dab away if you don't want too much. Now, I've got a section there, look. I've got a run across there, that's alright, so I'm just going to dab. Now my art journal page is buckling a little bit, it's also towards the back of the journal as well, so it's not exactly going to lay flat. but that's all right. Okay, so I'm gonna give that a blast with the heat gun. Okay, so that's the first layer. As you can see, we look at the texture like you're getting in that. And don't forget as well that these are water reactive. So if I spritz again with water over there, it's going to diffuse it a little bit more. But that's fine, because I want to introduce some of the Little John, which is the blue. Little John. Already where it's wet. So as you can see, I'm only going to put a few real small blobs. Now you could introduce water with a paintbrush if you want. So let's just grab some, oh, nearly dropped that. A small paintbrush. There we go. And I'll put some just water to one side. And I'll just bring that back in over there. And then you can just add in, just maneuver it where you want it to go, if you want to. And then once you've actually got it in that kind of position where you want, that's when you can add the chaos of your spritzer. Right, now let's get that running a little bit now. And then I'll pick up the excess at the bottom. And then just take a little bit from the top up there. Love that. Just give that brush a quick clean. And then again, nice and gentle heat. Okay, so that's now dried. So we're getting some really nice, lovely kind of watercolory effects. And I want to add in a little bit of warmth. So I'm going to add in some of that Loxley yellow. So again, I'm just going to give a little bit of a spritz towards the top and a little bit towards the bottom there. And I'm just going to drop in. There we go. Look at that. It's already starting to run and do what we want. And I'm going to let that kind of organically drip and maneuver. And I could just encourage it a little bit. There we go. Look at that. Beautiful. Again, just let that sit for a second or two. Let it run. And then just give it a gentle heat. That yellow has dried beautifully now. Look at that. So I'm going to introduce just a little bit of darkness now. So I'm going to add a little bit of the original oak, which is that brown. That bit there. So just to add a kind of vintage touch to it. So again, I'm just going to do the sides of the page. There we go. And then I'm going to add a couple of drops onto my mat there, and I'm going to introduce that. There we go. With the brush. That's a beautiful kind of reddy brown. And just let it sit like you would do with a watercolour. I'm just introducing it into the page. Just let it do its thing. Wherever the water is, let it flow and blend. And then over here, just introduce it into the water that we've spritzed on. And let it kind of just insinuate itself into the page. I think that's probably the right word to actually use, because it'll just flow and follow its own path, which just adds that kind of vintagey feeling out. Just before we bring the heat gun onto it, I'm also going to use what's left on there just to add some splatters, just top and bottom. There we go. And again, let's introduce a little bit of heat, but from a distance, not close up. Okay, so like here, where there's a little bit, where it just tends to kind of end rather abruptly, and there, you can always just bring your brush in and just soften that out, because like I said before, these are water reactive, so you can just kind of soften if you think an area is just a little bit too harsh, like there, likey. So like watercolours, these give a real organic feel to them. So yeah, very, very happy with that for the time being. Just need to add a little bit extra. So I'm just going to give that time just to cool down a little, because the page is still rather warm. So I'll let it cool down for a bit. I'll finish more of my coffee and then I'll be right back. Okay, just as a kind of finishing touch to the journal page, I'm going to add a little quote. It's one of these Tim Holtz snippets, or small chat, big chat, whatever they're called. And there's one here that says, "Miracles happen when you believe." So that's what I'm going to use for the art journal page today, mainly because I'm kind of taken a little bit of a leap of faith with this new product today. So didn't really know how it was going to behave on the page, so it was an experimental art journal page with this new product to me. Oh, that's the wrong colour. That's Robin Hood. Don't want that one. Nearly used green. I'm going back to the Loxley yellow, which was that really yummy kind of yellow there, which is mixed a little bit with the green. So I'm just going to put the tiniest of bits just down on the mat. Oh, you see, that's far too much. Way too much. So let's just wick some of that away. That'll do. Literally, you only need the smallest spot of colour, because these are so highly pigmented and concentrated. And a little bit of water. And I get my brush, and I'm just going to wash over just gently, and then I'm going to pick up the colour, really make it watery, and then I'm just going to do that. That's literally all I'm going to do. Let it sit for a second. While that's sitting, I can just lift up the rest. And then I'll just give it a quick once over. And then I can just peel that off the mat. And then I can just add that into the art journal page. Make sure I've got it straight. There we go. And it kind of blends itself into that background a bit more, but we do want it just to have a little bit of a frame on it. So what I'm going to do is I'm just going to add a little bit of a frame into the page, but I'm not going to go all the way. I'm just going to do kind of like a corner border. Start about here. Just turn that around a little bit. And then finally down a little bit further. Just like so, just to kind of frame it all. And then just to give it a little bit, just a tiny, 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 tiny of the merest fraction of a shadow underneath, just to make the quote pop a little. I'm just going to add just a small amount with my Stabilo All pencil. Touch of water. Mix it with that yellow that's still on the brush. Now don't worry if you think I've gone too mad. Because all I need to do is get some more water, and then I can just keep on blending that. If I go the other way, the more water that I add to it, the lighter it gets. There we go. We've lifted a little bit of that yellow off. So I can maybe just add a tad back in again. Ooh. So these are going to go a long, long way. Just add that colour back in. There we go. And I think what I'm going to do is just go across the top. And then we do that little dance of a bit of water here, a bit of water there, a few dabs to blend. I think that's it. And it doesn't take long. It really, really doesn't take long. So there we go. So that is my little experimental play page for today, using those new to me IndigoBlu Vivids, the eco refills, as kind of watercolory liquid inks to decorate the page. Love that. So all I need to do now is just to finish off, just add my little signature in the bottom. So I'm just going to put my initials and then just put it in there, and then put today's date, which is, can't remember, today's the 12th, so we'll go 12/8/23. So there we go. So like I said, I hope you've enjoyed watching me create this art journal page today. If you have, please remember to give the video a thumbs up, share the video with your friends, and if you haven't subscribed to my YouTube channel already, you can do so by clicking the button at the end of the video. But also, if you're inspired to create something after what I've done, seeing what I've done, and you want to share it with us, then don't forget you can join our creative collective Facebook group. There is a clickable link in the description area below the video, so all you have to do is just pop across there and join us. And then you can share any projects that you've done, you know, inspired by what I've done today. And then we can all see it. So share and inspire others too. So that's all from me for now. I'll see you all again very, very soon. Bye for now. I'd like to say a huge thank you to all of my angels, because without you, these videos would not be possible. And don't forget, you can access your exclusive angel-only content over on my website. There's a link in the description area below. Thank you.